Hey guys, today I'm filming part 3 of my Q&A. If you guys have not seen part 1 and 2, I will have it linked up in the cards. Part 1 was answering questions all about makeup. Also in that video there was a giveaway, so make sure you check that out and enter before the giveaway is over. And the second part was answering questions all about YouTube as well as my relationship with my husband. So if you're curious to know about those things, make sure you check out those previous videos. In today's video, I'm going to be answering questions all about grad school as well as any other random personal questions. So starting with grad school, my first question says, what are your plans now that you've finished your master's? And my plans are to look for a job. I have been doing that and it has been a lot more difficult than I expected. And I thought, wow, Heather, you've got a master's degree. It should be so much easier to find a job, and it's not, because either they're jobs that I had, like a house staff in a residential facility when I just had a bachelor's, and I got paid $11 an hour and I only had a bachelor's. I'm not doing that again for a master's. Also, it doesn't actually count towards my residency because they aren't actually counseling hours. And every other place that I've applied to is looking for somebody that's licensed. I'm still applying anyway and just hoping that they will pick me because they can pay me less. And for me in Virginia, at least, in order to get licensed, I have to work for a couple thousand hours, then I take the licensure exam. I can't go ahead and take the test right now. I have to work for a certain amount of hours first with clients doing counseling. So it is so much harder than I thought it would be to find a job. I am being a little bit picky. There are a couple of different things that I don't want to do, but that is what I'm trying to do right now, is find a job. My next question says, what kind of counseling are you the most interested in? And that would be domestic violence counseling. The reason I wanted to become a counselor was to do domestic violence counseling. That's what I did in my internship. I really enjoyed it. It is hard work, but it is very rewarding, and that is really what feeds me the most, what I'm the most passionate about. And I've already looked at all the shelters near where we are moving to, and nobody is looking for a therapist right now, which is a shame, but I knew that was definitely a high possibility because most shelters are nonprofits, they're grant funded, they don't have the funds for a counselor, or they can only hire one and they already have one. So I am gonna keep looking because that's ultimately what I would love to do. My next question says, I just graduated high school and I was wondering if you have any tips for college. So I could talk for hours about different tips I would give for college, especially for undergraduate school, but I would say absolutely go to class every single day. And that sounds like something a mom would say, but it's true. I unfortunately had a lot of friends or acquaintances that weren't going to classes. They just assumed that they would be unenrolled from the class if they stopped going. They never officially dropped the class. Then they ended up failing it and they ended up with a 1.0. So you definitely don't want that. Attendance is so important. There were so many times where I was really struggling with the class, and the reason that I ended up with a good grade is because my teacher saw that I came to class every day, I did my work, I was working hard, and then they bumped me up so I had a decent letter grade, which was very helpful. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to go to class, and it is definitely possible to go to all of your classes, do your homework, to study, and still have fun. Luckily at my school, because I was in a really small town, our campus tried to do a bunch of different activities. We were also relatively close to a neighboring large school where we would go on the weekends and hang out and stuff. Also, I'm definitely not condoning underage drinking, but I'm aware that it is something that often happens in college, especially freshman, sophomore year. So if you are going to a party, never go by yourself. Always have at least one friend with you. If you can have a group of girls, if you can have a guy with you, that's even better. Never go to an all-girls party at a fraternity. It might sound really silly and obvious, but I remember when I was in college, we were walking around the town. This frat party had an all-girls party and it was like, don't go in there. And I remember a couple girls going in there. Part of that fraternity's initiation process, which was obviously secret, but it could have been rumors, I think it was true. Part of their initiation process was that you had to roofie somebody. So a girls only party, it's a perfect opportunity to do that. So just making sure that you're as safe as possible. You make sure that you are the only one that is control of your drinks. Just being as safe as you can in that way, because unfortunately there are a lot of people who wake up with regrets or getting themselves into a situation where something really bad happens to them. So not to scare you, but just be very alert of your surroundings and try to protect yourself as much as you can. Also, have fun. If you have free electives and you can take whatever classes you want, I think sociology classes are super interesting. And when I was in school, I actually took a pottery class and it was so much fun. I had all these wonderful projects I gave to my family, and luckily the teacher helped me out a lot because I was not good, but it was a lot of fun. So just trying to make the most of your experience. Definitely keep up on your academics, but also in trying to make friends, it is a good idea to live in the dorm at first so you can get to know people, and of course try to be good roommate, good housemates with the other people that you're living with. Try to make friends with people in your hall, try to be friendly with people in your class. That way you can have a better college experience. And there were a good group of friends where we would literally just like hang out every single day and have so much fun. We didn't have to be partying or going anywhere or doing anything, just hanging out was so much fun. And we are still great friends today. The girls were in my wedding, I was in one of their weddings. So definitely recommend all that. If you have any more questions, let me know. Like, there are so many things I could say about college, but those are all the things on my brain right now. My next question says, how do you feel being finished with grad school? Do you think you'll get more education? I am so ecstatic to be done. Now, this was only a 2-year program. It went by very quickly, which I'm really happy about. It was a good experience, but I'm just happy to be done with school. To come home and not have to study or do homework is so nice. And along with that, it feels kind of scary being done, because with my internship, I had such hand-holding with my supervisor at my site as well as with my professors at school, and we just had so much support. Being on my own and having to have a big girl job and be extremely independent with my work is very nerve-wracking to me, because I want to be successful, I want to help people, I want to do a good job. So that part feels pretty scary to me, but I am happy to be done with school. I have no plans of going to get a doctorate. I am really fortunate with my program that it was academically achievable. It wasn't way challenging. My school does not offer a doctoral program. If they did, I would consider it. Otherwise, no. My goal is not to prescribe medication. I don't see myself doing a ton of assessments. I don't see a purpose for me having a doctoral degree. The only reason I got a master's is because I knew there was no way I could get any kind of job with just a doctorate. So now that I have my master's, really like the ultimate goal is to get the license so that I can be licensed, I can get paid more, and I will have more access to jobs. But I do not plan at all on getting a doctorate. My next question says, how was grad school and did you have a thesis? And grad school was pretty good. I was lucky to end up in a program where the teachers are really understanding. They're really willing to help you. They weren't all there just to write their books and get their paychecks. It felt like they genuinely cared about us. And I did not personally have a thesis. I know that happens mostly in doctoral programs, but that might happen with masters as well. But what we did instead was a big research project. You could either do a survey or you could conduct interviews. I, of course, did a survey. So basically what that means is that a therapist chooses to share something personal about themselves with a client. And I wanted to know from people working in the field whether they thought that was appropriate, what times has that been helpful or hurtful, and also I broke down self-disclosure into topics to see if there were particular topics that counselors felt more comfortable with discussing, like whether they had kids, they had pets, TV show preferences, music preferences, whether they were a domestic violence survivor, if they have substance abuse history. So I broke it down into all different kinds of topics to see what people were most interested in. The results were mostly what I expected, but it was a really interesting project. Self-disclosure is something that I've always been very interested in. When I worked in a residential facility, it was extremely helpful for me, but I was not acting as a counselor. So basically, like, the main benefits from this is that you can strengthen your therapeutic relationship, that a client might feel more comfortable and safe with you and end up revealing more to you as well. And of course, you just need to have good boundaries, make sure that you are not revealing anything that is going to hurt the client, that you're telling them something because you feel like it will actually help them, not because you just feel like chatting with a friend and telling somebody something about yourself, because that is not the intended purpose at all. So that is what my project was. My next question says, is grad school really as difficult as they say it is? How did you maintain a social life and find balance? And I think that grad school would be awful for most everyone. Mine was not, because of the school that I chose. So I'll talk more about it in my next question about why I chose my program. But basically, my program is not the most academically stressful as others are. So I think for most people it would be really intense, but mine was not. Luckily, it was nerve-wracking at times and I was stressed out at times, definitely, but it's because I tend to leave things to the last minute, and it was definitely manageable. And were you able to have a social life and find balance? I was, because I didn't have so many projects to work on. Basically what I did in my free time was watch YouTube videos, film and edit and upload YouTube videos, and that is really how I prefer to spend my free time. And unfortunately my very close friends live far away, so I didn't get to see them often except for holidays. So my next question says, can you tell us about your program and how you decided what you wanted to get your graduate degree in? So when I started looking at grad schools, most of them want you to pick a specialization, whether that is marriage and family counseling, substance abuse counseling, adolescence, it is community counseling, school counseling. Like, there are so many different topics, and I realized I don't want any of those. What I want is trauma counseling, and there were, I think, like 4 or 5 schools in the entire United States where you can get a master's in that. And what I found is that a lot of schools, you had to go all the way to a doctorate. They wouldn't allow you to stop in a master's, which I thought was kind of odd. So that really made me be like, oh my gosh, like the thing that I want isn't that accessible, so what should I do? So I ended up choosing my school, where my degree that I have right now is a Master's of Arts in Counseling. I do not have a specialization. And when I called the school, I asked them about their classes. They have at least one class in each of those different topics, so I'm able to learn everything, which was really essential for me, because in my undergraduate, I had one counseling class and it was terrible. The rest were all based on research and the brain and the science aspect, which is very important, but it wasn't about counseling techniques. So a big thing that drew me to this program is that I didn't have to pick a specialization, and that we would be able to cover all the topics. Also, a big factor that drew me to this program in particular is because you do not have to take the GRE, which is the graduate level SAT, basically. And I did awful on the SAT, and I took the ACT. I did terrible on both of them. Even though I studied, I'm not good at standardized tests. So I knew that I was going to absolutely bomb this GRE. So when I called my school, I asked if that is something they required. They said no, and I was like, done, I'm there. So my school is a private institution. It is very expensive to go there, and looking back, I definitely don't regret anything, but I also should have paid more attention to the price, and I really wasn't, and that's just fortunate enough for me that I was able to afford it. So basically what I did is, between my undergraduate and my master's program, I lived at home and worked for 2 years. During that time, I was able to save up 75% of my paycheck, and I paid for 3 of my 4 semesters of college right out of my own pocket. And then my last semester, I was like, oh my gosh, I need $10,000. Where is that going to come from? We do not have $10,000. And then my teachers had applied for a grant. It was accepted. The application was accepted. We were approved. I don't know the right words for it, but we were granted this grant, and each of us got $10,000. And it was basically like a stipend, because all of us were working with underserved populations in our non-paid internships. And we could use that money on whatever we wanted. I used mine completely on my last semester of grad school, and I am very fortunate to say that I have no school debt. And I was really lucky that my parents had a tuition plan for me when I was in my undergrad, so that was completely paid for, and I paid for all of my grad school with the help of my school. I didn't need financial aid, and that is so amazing and so lucky to be able to say. I am so thankful for my teachers doing that for us, because the school barely got a kickback, but all of us got $10,000. And my class is really small. We had like 15 people, so that was an absolute blessing. I thank God so much for that, because how many people get to say that they graduate, they have a master's, and they're debt free. My last grad school question says, did you experience any burnout during school? Feeling extremely exhausted, not wanting to do schoolwork? Absolutely. Even though my school is only a 2-year program, the last year, especially the last semester, I had senioritis like no other. I was waiting until the very last minute to do assignments, and I don't really work that well under pressure. And I knew I was setting myself up to fail in this way, and I ended up doing fine, but I am the worst at procrastinating, and like it never works out for me. Like I make it by, but it's never a good experience. And now we are on to the random personal questions. And the first one says, what city are you thinking of moving to? So Justin and I are planning to move to the DC area. My next question, which I think I actually got this question like 2 or 3 times, says, what is your biggest insecurity and how do you deal with it? But my biggest insecurity is my intelligence. And it doesn't quite make sense because I've always done well in school, but I have to work very hard. And I do have friends that do also work hard, but they're naturally very intelligent. And I am unfortunately someone that it likes things to come easy to me, and they don't, like ever. They don't. So it just took a lot of work for me to get decent grades. Like in my undergraduate program, there was one teacher who taught 4 of the classes, my major classes I needed for my degree. He was so difficult. I studied so hard for all of his tests and I got a D on every single test. And just because of good attendance, he bumped me up to a C, which is what you have to have in your major classes. So thank God for my good attendance and the fact that he was really compassionate towards me, because I just struggle academically where I really, really need help. And that is another reason why I really like my program. I didn't know it ahead of time, but my program is much more experiential than it is academic. And that worked out really well for me, even though I am not like a touchy-feely share our emotions kind of person necessarily. That's not me, and it still weirds me out to this day. I never quite got used to it. It was a lot easier than a very academically intense program. So I was very lucky in that way, but that's an insecurity of mine, is like, I just wish I was smarter. And I was constantly comparing myself to other people in my program who, even though we were around the same age, had so much more experience and they've read so many books and done so much research, and they are just so smart, and I felt very dumb in comparison. And then I had a bunch of questions from my friend Amanda. She asked me what were my favorite pizza toppings: pepperoni, sausage, hamburger. Meat lovers pizza all day long. I eat cheese too, that's pretty good. And I had another question down here, asked me pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Disgusting. No, absolutely not. Get out of my face with that crap. I don't want any veggies on my pizza. I don't want any fruit on my pizza. Just give me the meat, okay? The next question says, my top 3 to 5 movies. I love Melissa McCarthy. I love Spy, The Heat, Bridesmaids. Some of my favorite movies that are very dumb humor, but are some of my favorite movies ever, would be Benchwarmers and Superstar. You definitely have got to look them up if you haven't seen them already. Very dumb humor. Next question says, favorite animal? A dog, obviously. I just love dogs so much. My favorite part about going to somebody's house is if they have a dog. Yes, please, thank you. My favorite thing to do when I have nothing to do: watch TV and YouTube. I am a couch potato. I could literally sit on the couch and watch TV or YouTube for days with no social interaction and be perfectly happy. My next question says, what is the most ridiculous thing you've ever overreacted to? Everything. I'm very dramatic. I like things to be just so, and if something is not just so, I will absolutely lose my mind. So when I was working in a residential facility, I worked in 2. First one, pretty good. Second one, terrible. The second one had me so emotionally strung out on edge that I was literally screaming, crying, freaking out over nothing all the time. Also, I'm really loving my earrings today, so I feel like I'm just like jiggling all around. My next question is from Amber, and it says, who's your favorite season 10 drag queen, and how and when did you start watching RuPaul's Drag Race? So for season 10, my favorite drag queens, I think Cameron is beautiful, like a gorgeous woman and a gorgeous man. Oh my gosh, Cameron is so beautiful. She also can lip sync like crazy. However, I do not think Cameron should win. I do really like Eureka as well. I think she has done a really great job this season. I don't think her looks are the most fashion forward, but I do think she dresses very flattering to her body, and it's very on brand the way that she dresses. She is a little talkative for me, but I do really like Eureka. I actually really love Aquaria. I did not think I was really gonna like her, but ever since the Snatch Game, she was amazing. There are so many times where she's been able to sing and dance. Her looks are on point. Her fashion is amazing, and she's actually funny. And I really think when Asia checked her about being so conceited and self-absorbed, she really changed after that. I also really loved Miss Cracker, and I love Trixie Mattel, but when Trixie was originally on the show, she was a comedy queen, but not the most funny. And that's how I feel about Cracker. She's a comedy queen, but not the most funny. I think she just has a particular type of humor that doesn't work with everyone, or the jokes don't land as well, but I still love Miss Cracker a lot. So for me, with the top 4, I would be okay with any of them. Asia rubs me the wrong way, but I'd be really happy if either Aquaria or Eureka won. And when did I start watching RuPaul's Drag Race? It was either season 2 or 3. I'm thinking it was 2 when Raven and Jujubee were on it, who are some of my faves still. And I honestly do not know how I came across it. It must have just showed up on TV because I don't really know many people in my personal life that also watch that show, but I just thought it was the absolute most amazing thing ever. They have to design their own costumes, sing and dance. It's literally like America's Next Top Model mixed with Project Runway, mixed with America's Got Talent. Like, put all those things together and that's RuPaul's Drag Race. My next question says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you think you'll have kids and a house? I hope so. I hope that I have a job sometime soon. But Justin and I talked about we want to try to start having kids sometime in 2019, which is in the very near future. And we want to be able to save up money to have a townhouse or own a house in the future. That is definitely a goal. So that is what I see. Having probably 2 kids within 5 years, since we're going to start trying next year, and hopefully not living in an apartment, living in a house. And if we could own a house, that would be amazing. And hopefully we both have really good jobs we plan on staying at for a long time. My next question says, what was your typical day like on the cruise? So I like to sleep in, but not too late. Like 9 o'clock is good for me. And then we would go have our little breakfast buffet. We would go out to the pool deck area, hang out there. And then usually sometime during the day, we would take a nap, and then we would eat dinner in the dining room, which was a very nice and fancy. And then after that, usually we would go to some of the activities. They always had different events going on the cruise, different shows or fun little game activities. Or comedy shows. We always went to multiple of those every single night. So that was like a typical day. I am so much more of a relaxer on vacation, but Justin is like a let's do thing. So we found a good balance there. My next question says, where is somewhere in the world you would want to visit? I really want to go to LA, and like that's a very achievable one. I would love to go to other places outside of the US. I think it would be cool to go to Japan. I think that would be so much fun. I really love to do that sometime, but definitely go to LA. It's something Justin and I both want to do, something we want to do, I think we said before we have kids, which means like we gotta go soon. I don't know. But LA is definitely a place I want to go. Like everywhere in that area, I want to do all the touristy things. I want to go to all the shops. Like I just want to go to LA so bad. And Justin's favorite basketball team is the Lakers, so if we could line that up somewhere where there's a home Lakers game, like that would be amazing. My next question says, do you and your husband want kids? Definitely. I want 2, he wants 3. I think 3 is too much and one person gets left out, and it's too much. It's too much. So hopefully after we have a couple kids, he'll be like, I changed my mind, 2's just fine. My next question says, what's your go-to morning beverage to get you going before class each day? And I actually do not drink tea or coffee. I only drink McDonald's iced coffee on occasion, and that's when I'm driving to my internship, especially in the winter. When you are driving like straight ahead for hour and 15 minutes and you've got the heat on in your warm jacket because it's wintertime, sometimes a girl can get sleepy, and that's dangerous when you're driving. So only if I felt really tired in the morning would I get a coffee before driving to my internship because it was so far. But literally what I drink in the morning is either milk or orange juice, depending on what I'm eating. I'm a very simple gal. I love to drink milk and Mountain Dew, the only 2 drinks I need in my life, and I can throw in a little water once in a while. I definitely want to have my own dog in the future, but for now I will just give all of my loving to our family dogs. My next question says, what kind of activities or hobbies do you enjoy? And honestly, I don't have other hobbies outside of I like to watch TV and I like to watch YouTube. My next question says, are you a cat or a dog person? I think I've made it pretty clear I'm a dog person. What's your favorite color? I always think of color in terms of makeup. So back in the day, I would have told you my favorite color is pink. I don't really wear pink very much, except some pink lipsticks. And I don't even really like pink nail polish, but I really love purple. I really like mint and pinky corals. But I guess if I had to pick one, probably mint. My next question says, what is your favorite season and why? I actually really enjoy fall because it's not too hot, it's not too cold, not a ton of rain. I'm not a summer person necessarily because it's too hot outside, but I really love my summer clothes the best, but I really like fall makeup the best. So I would say fall is my favorite season. My last question says, how tall are you? It appears you are tall. I am 5'6". Not that tall, but not that short. I'm pretty average in height, I would say. So guys, that was my final part of my Q&A. Thank you guys so much for everyone that asked me questions. Thank you to everyone that watched these videos. Make sure you check out those other Q&As, especially part 1, so you can enter the giveaway. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.